Hello and welcome to the Hypertrophy Odyssey, chapter 419. It is the first day of the week, aka the Kamehameha workout. I feel very good right now, very excited for this workout. But anyways, to the main subject matter for today, Jestermaxxing. So the main reason why I wanted to discuss this is because there are multiple reasons. One, the rise of this gif right here of the jester dancing in front of the bored princess, because that is making the rounds currently on social media, and also it just makes me think of a lot of this. But also too, before that even happened, I actually had this on the list, and as a little bit of a continuation of this episode right here about looksmaxing. It's in the certain area that isn't necessarily the same, but a route used by a lot of people, including myself even, I could say, to court women, and that is to become a jester, really just to be a funny guy. And I think a lot of people do this, but obviously the way that people do it is not necessarily good, and I can't even say like I'm not guilty of it. I am very guilty of it. So in today's episode, we're going to be looking at that, the entire idea behind it, becoming the jester, and the entire caricature of becoming like the funny guy and all that other stuff, because it's a very interesting thing, because a lot of people will honestly demean themselves in order to do something like that, but also at the same time there is a certain level of honesty that you can get away with by doing that in a weird way that isn't normal for the person to person. So there's a lot that goes into it. And this comes from a little mix of seeing others do it as well as personal experience, because I've been there. I know what it's like. At this point, I try to get myself to laugh. That's like the main thing, which some people will say is their thing, but a lot of the time they will think about what will make others laugh. So in today's episode, we're going to be looking at that, the damage that the GIF has caused probably to multiple people realistically, or just the general dating marketscape, which is already fucked beyond belief, but that's like a multi-part, multifaceted type of thing. So we'll get into more of that in a later episode. But for today, if you're a Jestermaxxer, please let me know in the comment section down below. But that being said, I will see you at Mother Base. Alright, so I started this day off with dips, which are pretty good. But anyways, back to the main subject matter for today. Jestermaxxing. So the main reason why I wanted to discuss this is because this just is something that has been on the list for a while, and is something that a lot of people end up doing a lot of the time, which we will get into right now. A slang term arising from looksmaxxing and the manosphere subcultures that refer to the act of using humor, silly antics, and high-energy chaos to attract attention or romantic interest. Often described as a form of a class clown, behavior adopted by adults focusing on being the center of attention through comedy rather than traditional, serious, or dominant mating strategies. So that's why I mainly wanted to talk about this. It's not necessarily just going to be an intro to game, because I do want to talk about that eventually on this channel. I'm going to make probably a whole series about it, because it is a very interesting thing. Obviously, I think it has fallen by the wayside recently, but that's a whole other discussion with how social trends have happened, and more people are starting to start to understand the Gen Z stare, which is starting to become a little crazy, but we'll get to that in some other day. But in this case, when we're talking about Jestermaxxing, I think that this has been always a thing where people will use their comedic chops in order to court women. It's as simple as that. But I think that a lot of people have realized the humiliation, or have kind of treated it in a different way ever since that GIF has come along, where they realize, oh, I am just being a court gesture to these women without actually having a sense of self. A lot of the time, the reason why this happens, I feel like, is a lot of people will end up going down the rabbit hole of self-deprecating humor, because it's a very easy thing to do, especially with people that you don't necessarily know, because you can put the joke upon you. But the thing is that a lot of the time people don't realize that once you put the joke upon you, you become the joke, and people can't take you seriously. And I think that that's the main issue with it. And then thus this GIF alone has kind of made certain people realize, oh, I'm the clown here. I'm the idiot that's making myself put myself down. But they may or may not be putting the two and two together, which happens a lot. Some people don't understand that that is what's happening. And sometimes they feel like this entire thing is a humiliation ritual, which in certain aspects it can be. And it will be if you continue down the rabbit hole of making it so you degrade yourself in order to make other people laugh. I think that that's where that big issue comes up. But I think that a lot of people do end up getting blackpilled on something like
being a funny dude, because in essence you are trying to basically be the jester to all of these women in order to try to maybe get an ounce or inkling of some type of reciprocal feedback, just or something. It sucks when you look at it in that sense, because there are a lot of people that they're screwed where they are just making themselves the jester in someone else's life. You are nothing more than just the funny person. You are nothing more than just the person to look and laugh at, not laugh with. There are certain things that happen in dating, particularly nowadays, where it is more of a humiliation ritual than anything than it used to be. The other part of it is that a lot of people think that they're funny, and I think that that's the other aspect of it that is not talked about much, is that they believe that their game is funny. They're the funny guy, but in reality, most of the time they're probably not, and they only are funny because of circumstance and or because they go through these rabbit holes of self-deprecating humor or happenstance type of thing, where they're not actually funny, but the consequences around them are funny, or their actions make the women laugh at them. The entire screenshot sent into the group chat type of woman who will make fun of this man, well, sometimes blatantly in front of them. And it's a very interesting dynamic, because a lot of the people won't realize that they are the butt of the joke. Not realizing that you're the butt of the joke is really the end game with this. If you're going to go down this rabbit hole of being the funny guy, the jester for other people, you have to realize that you also have a certain level of power that most people don't have, and that is you can be honest and tell the truth in a joking manner with a lot of people if you know how to tell comedy correctly, which is something that I think that a lot of comedy or comedians nowadays overdo, which I will get to in a different episode. But it is something that is a value of the jester in a certain sense, where you can actually talk to people and be honest with them in the playful way, where you can tell them a harsh truth, but if done in a correct and joking manner, it won't be taken as seriously, but it will be told. And sometimes those are the types of people that you need to hear these serious things from, because then it actually can get through to others. But when it comes to trying to court someone, specifically a woman, if you aren't doing it correctly, they will have no choice but look down upon you, of course. But a lot of people end up getting stuck there, basically, and then they want to just not do anything at all. So I'm not necessarily for that entire idea where you aren't necessarily just not doing anything at all, but I'm more so just trying to figure out what the hell your game is particularly. Because like I said before, and I will say it again, and I will keep reiterating this because I know this, there are many people who will try the comedy route. It is not their thing. I can see it. I've seen it where it happens, and I've seen it where it doesn't happen, where I've had friends where they are the comedy person, and I've had friends that aren't the comedy person. It's just how it is. Personally, that's how I roll. I like to make people laugh. That's just how I am, but I know to not make myself the butt of the joke as much as I can, because I know that at the end of the day, how I perceive myself is how others will perceive me, and then that's where those things, but nothing but looking down upon somebody else is going. And that's why you don't want to be a jester to many other people. When I was live streaming, that was the biggest issue I had when I was live streaming, because when you live stream, you either sell sex or autism, and I was selling a lot of autism that was at the expense of myself, really, and that was the biggest issue. I would never do it again, because of the fact that that's one thing where you have to kind of be the jester for all of these people, the clown, the literal clown in certain situations, and it makes it so that it's not worth it, especially if you have some semblance of self-value that a lot of people will just look past if you are looking past it.
And we're back. Welcome to the workout debriefing. Exercises not filmed, none. Exercises skipped, also none. Got everything in, thankfully. But anyways, back to the main subject matter for today, Jestermaxxing. So the main reason why I want to discuss this is because, one, the GIF is making the rounds right now, and two, this was actually on the list, actually even before Looksmaxxing, which is kind of interesting, because it is something that I think that a lot of dudes end up defaulting to almost. I would say we end up having to figure out what our game is. One day I'll make an episode about game and it's in and of itself, because that's a whole host of subject matter, which is kind of a lost art in a weird way nowadays, even though it was popular like 10 years back, but it's a whole other story for a whole other day. I think that a lot of dudes end up going down the rabbit hole of just trying to figure out what their strategy is, and one of the big ones is comedy and or making yourself seem like the dum-dum, the jester, if you will. And a lot of people end up doubling down, tripling down, even quadrupling down into that. And I think that whilst it can work, there is downsides to it a lot of the time, obviously, because many of the time when people run out of jokes, they will make themselves the joke, and thus that causes a whole host of issues. Whenever you speak ill of yourself, people usually have no choice but to look ill upon you, even though you may be thinking that it is done in a joking manner. It's not how it works. People will see you in that manner. As much as you would like to believe that's how it's not how it works, it's how it works. And that's why it's like a weird double-edged sword, especially if you start going down the rabbit hole of like self-deprecating humor and things like that. And you have to be careful about that, because a lot of people will go down that and not realize that they are basically self-sabotaging themselves in these scenarios. But in this particular case, with the whole GIF and just people realizing, damn, I am really just trying to dance around for the attention of a woman, is a pretty tough pill to swallow, especially nowadays where there's abundant choice for women, and then for men we have to do X, Y, or Z things in order to be seen as a viable option for them. But that's kind of thankfully not my domain, and I don't have to worry about that. But at the same time, good luck to those who have to worry about that, because it's not a simple game anymore, nor is it something that I shouldn't actually disregard, because the thing is, and here's a dirty little secret here, is that even once you're married or in a relationship, the courting continues. It never stops. Those who stop will see a abundance of, how do I say this, terrible times in their future, because once you stop the courting, a stagnation happens. But that's kind of a different episode for a different day. I'll talk about relationships and how to keep them on a different one. But I think a lot of people end up not realizing that, and that is a massive error. So the gesturing always is happening regardless. But there is a little bit of a difference between you doing it upon yourself to try to get the attention of a random woman and somebody that you can call a partner. You know what I mean? There's a little bit of a difference. But even then, you shouldn't do something like the self-deprecating humor that a lot of these people end up defaulting to, because a lot of the time it will reflect terribly upon you. And obviously, that's just not good. It's like trying to hit yourself in the dick. You can do it. It's just not going to be a good idea. So generally speaking, Jestermaxxing as an idea is actually okay, but only once done well, and also if you know what to do. Timing is 90% of it, realistically, and also smart, small quips are better than long, drawn-out things. I think that is the biggest lesson I've learned in being someone who has gone down that rabbit hole of trying to be very loud and boisterous for humorous sake. It's not a rabbit hole that I would recommend everybody does, but I think a lot of people do end up going down that rabbit hole. Obviously, if you aren't good at comedy, don't go down it. Don't waste your time. I have a friend, Jose, love you, brother. You're funny, but that's not his game. He has other game. He's not a funny guy. You know what I mean? In that sense. He's funny with us, with the homies, but like, that's a different type of humor, But that's something that I think he knows, he knows his domains, and that's the thing. A lot of people don't realize what their domains are, and some people will go down this Jestermaxxing idea thinking that it's what they should do, but really, it's not working out for you. You got to find something else. But with that being said, tell me what you think in the comment section down below. I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions about this one. This one's kind of random, but at the same time, a very interesting subject matter. Like I said, been on the mind for a little while. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Please share this video with anybody who may or may not like it. I will be back on tomorrow with another video. Very special one. Thank you and I'm very excited for it. With that being said, thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Please share this video with anybody who may or may not like it. I will be back on tomorrow with a new video. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you in the next one. Keep it heavy. Stay safe out there. Stay warm. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.